wanted to share a story of something that happened actually last night to me. I walked into the store, a store that sells lots of goods in bulk. I was walking through the aisles with my guitar case on my back. I love cooking, so I was looking at all the things I might be able to use. Tend to stay away from processed food, so I wasn't really finding what I was looking for. I ran into someone that worked there, and he looks at me and he says, "Hi, how are you doing this evening?" And I say, "I'm doing well." And he makes eye contact with me for a moment, and I know the look that he's giving me. It's the look that says, "Are you going to take something from our store today?" And so I play it cool. I mean, I'm pretty used to it by now. You know, I've lived in America my whole life. And so I find nothing. So I walk out the store with nothing in my hands except for my guitar case. As I walk out the store, I turn around, I'm walking, and I hear, "Excuse me, young man," loud, real loud. Stop, close my eyes, smile. Turn around, and there's the guy looking at me. He says, "You know, I'm really sorry about this, but I have to check your bag." So I'm standing there, smiling, looking at him, take off my bag, and I say, "Okay, I understand." And so he's walking up to me, and I look at his face, and I see this look of guilt, like just pure guilt on his face. And he's walking up to me, and he stops at my bag and says, "You know, I'm really sorry about this. You know, it's just, you know, you're walking through the store, you know, you have a bag on your back. You know, I don't know what's in the bag. I don't know you." I'm like, yeah, I understand. You know, because, you know, not a lot of people walk through the store with bags, you know. But I take it off, and he says, "You know, you don't have to open it. I just want to pat it down. I want to pat it down." And it's a guitar case, you know. There's going to be a guitar in there, right? So he puts his fingers on the end, and he goes, "You know what? Forget it. You know, he puts his hand on my shoulder, and he says, "You just have a nice evening, okay?" And in that moment, I realized exactly where we are. In that moment, I realized exactly where we are. I knew what he was thinking. He says, "Am I doing this because this young man is not white?" And in my mind, I'm saying, is he doing this because I'm not white? And so we're at this moment where we're actually connecting on a human level, looking at each other eye to eye, knowing that there is so much history behind us. There is so much subconsciously that neither of us had control over. It was our ancestors that put us here. And so now we're just looking at each other like, where do we go? Where do we go from here? What's the next step? What questions need to be asked? And so I thought about this position. I thought about some of the aspects of this position, the elements of what makes this what it is. And the first one I thought about was guilt. Because I felt guilty too. You know, I tried to make excuses. I'm like, "Oh, well, it's a bag. You know, the store's almost closing." But that's not enough. There's a reason why we were feeling the way that we were feeling. There's a reason why we met that moment and had those feelings. And his guilt was unnecessary too. There's absolutely no reason to let guilt get in the way. I think we're past guilt. I think we need to take it to the next step. Now it's time to have the discussion. It's time to hold people accountable for the feelings that they have and the things that they do. So, I'm pretty sure a lot of you have heard a lot of the things that we talked about on the panel today. The pipeline from schools to prisons. We talked about all these different things that happen in our society today. But the real question is, who's willing to go to the mouth of the river that the babies come down? Because we are losing babies. We are losing children. There's not enough of us. The babies keep coming. Babies are dying. Children are dying. Trayvon is dead. People are dying every day. Every single day. And we can take one or two, we can pick them out of the water. But who's willing to walk up the hill where the river, the mouth of the river is at? Who's willing to do it? Who's really willing? It's easy to come to a conference every year and listen to each other, to listen to our problems and the things that we talk about doing. But what's the next step? We, as in YUIR, Youth Against Institutional Racism, are more than just pretty faces. We're more than just beautiful kids. We're a movement. We are looking for a revolution. So we want to challenge you today to, or remind you, if this is how you feel, that your perspective is everything, and it always starts with you and your perspective. You change your perspective, you change the way you look at the world, you manifest that difference all from your perspective, your heart. You take the time to learn. Because when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So it's time to make that change. It's time to work together. It's time to have those conversations. It's time to make that move, to organize. The time is now. It's now. Thank you.
We're going to have a little bit of time. How much time do we have left, Rick? 2 minutes? 2 minutes? So we're going to have time for maybe one or two quick questions for the young people on the panel. But before we do that, I mean, as Otieno said, this is a movement. This is not all of YUIR. This is just part of the team. And I want to say to Jamal, you're never, ever late. You know, when you're here at the right time. Your spirit is something. So, who has a question for the panel? We'll come right here.
Yes. Okay. So obviously all
Stand
of
up
you.
first. Stand up.
Dude. Hold up. First of all, I just want to thank you all for being here. As a young person, I get really excited when I see other people that look like me on stage. Obviously, all of you have taken time to do some self-reflection during the course of going through Freedom School and being part of this program. So I was just wondering, what was one of the most difficult things for you to discover about yourself during the course of this? Does that question make sense?
I think the question is the answer. Or the answer is the question. I think that just knowing for myself that I did contribute to racism without even realizing it, and that there's kind of no way about it with how much it is institutionalized and how much we're conditioned.
So for me, I had already started to think about these things, but more from the perspective of my being a victim of racism, because I am Latina and because my family has experienced discrimination. But what was hardest for me was to realize that because of what I already said, how I look and how I speak, I can also be not just a victim, but somebody who's contributing in a way to racism. And that I had to recognize in myself that I was a very privileged person, and that those privileges meant that I had to do a lot for the movement and stuff. So.
Maybe everybody can speak to this question.
Well, the hardest thing for me was realizing that in this journey that there's little I can do about who I am. Like the hardest part for me is accepting that I am who I am, and the world sees me the way that they do. You know, for a long time, I wanted to believe that people didn't see me as being a black person. And because, honestly, it's not easy being black. It's not easy being perceived as being black today at all. And every time you look on the television screen, or you see in the media, I see my people, and I don't always feel so proud about that. But that's who I am, that's where I come from, those are my people. And other people will look at us that way, and we look at ourselves that way. And the hardest part is accepting that, humbling myself to it, and humbling myself to the world, also knowing that I could be murdered for no reason by police officers, by anyone if they feel threatened by me. And knowing that, having that knowledge and having that understanding is it's heavy to carry around, and like to continue to work and not to give up and be overwhelmed by ignorance, because it's super real. It's very real.
Personally, for me, the hardest thing was realizing that I needed to heal. Like a lot of emotion that I have, I keep it inside and I don't bring it out and like bother to share it, because I had it pretty good in life. There's been those rough times that I had because I'm like from Haiti, and so like then I was like a different person. I was living in poverty and all this stuff was going on. But like coming here, I haven't personally been like having interactions with like the police or anything that many of the other colored people have had. And so it's easy for me to just keep it inside and not bother to stand up for other colored people. And so as like going through Freedom School, I realized I had a lot of feelings that I needed to put out there, because personally I have a hard time accepting that it's like white people. Like it's nothing against you all or anything, but just it's hard for me to know that your ancestors enslaved my ancestors, so it's really hard for me to carry that and not to like break down and cry or like get angry. And like a while back I was talking to Dustin about like, what if it was the other way around? What if black people could enslave white people? How would it change that? But it's not good for any of us to be enslaved. So even if it was that way and white people were to be enslaved, like it's humanity. Humans have rights. We need to live, we need to come together, we need to heal and all this. So we can't just keep poking each other out or going against African versus African American and all this crap. Like we're way past that. It's time for us to come together and celebrate our similarities and our strengths, and understand that our differences are not our weakness, but are really something that make us powerful as a movement, as people in this nation. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Dendria Barrow, and so I have two questions. The first thing is, can I get everything transcribed that you just said? I don't know if it'll be on the website, or I would love your signatures on it. I'm sure that'll be worth money. So, and you are beautiful people. I am very serious though. Right now I have a Black student union that just started up at Highline High School, and I'm wondering if you would come visit us. Or we could come to you. So my two questions are getting transcriptions of what you said, and the second one, do you go on the tour circuit?
Yes, and I'm very excited to hear that you just formed a Black union, and I really love this work, and I really love talking about racism and fixing stuff. I've always felt the need to heal others and heal myself as well, and yeah, I'd be honored to come to your Black union. Thank you for inviting us.
We're out of time, so get up and give it up for YUIR.